just you and me. Change it, can't do it alone. I need some help, y'all. Can't do it alone. Won't get no better if we just let it be. No, 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 no.
Welcome to Truth Forum. A forum discuss truth in a friendly surrounding like we do at home at the kitchen table. I'm your host, Dr. Tino Smith. I do have the rights to perform the songs, the notes, and the lyrics licensed by BMI. As your host, I will lead compelling, relatable, and honest conversations. My guests will range from community leaders, professionals, and real people whose stories will touch and inspire you. Discussions will center around the stories of personal struggles and amazing, triumphant, and even compelling topics in the news. If you'd like to be a guest at the kitchen table, you can call us at 269-282-1490 or email us at kingdombuildersworldwide2@gmail.com. My vision is to catalyze, energize, and bring people together. We want to continue to share extremely important issues so we can work together. Because if we don't know the network, who's in the network, we'll never know how to feed off of each other. And even part of reawakening African people, that's what they did. The tribes would sit down and they'd have discussions every night, sharing stories, passing down from generation to generation. Today, we're going to really have that opportunity because we have a senior, a man of wisdom that will be at this table, has a lot to share with us, and you have a lot to learn. So please tune back and enjoy what we're about to do. Before I introduce him, I'd like to thank my producers, Tiffany Smith, Ronnie Hoyt, Carl English, Mike Campbell. Darian is on the Facebook Live, Kara Bolden, and Armstrong is on the cameras. My main man co-host, Doug Jones. And again, my guest today, Mr. Melvin Evans. Let's put our hands together for him right now. All right, before we do anything, we want everybody to know that we have a person here that is filled with wisdom. The Bible talks about that stage of wisdom throughout the Bible, and I think one of the things that we're lacking in our community is the fact that we don't have a lot of older men and older women that is able to share some wisdom. So before we even do anything, I want y'all to know we are sitting next to a man, my co-host and I, that had a birthday on September 30th, which made him 87 years young. All right, y'all. 87 years young. He was born in 1931. Mr. Evans, before we do anything, I'm just grateful that you decided to come on the show.
Thank you.
My man. I always start off the show by saying, as a young lad, I would always see him. I believe he worked along with some of his family and friends for Perry's Funeral Home. I think I saw him there. Of course, he's going to share some of his relationships and his sister and those things. But I always saw him from a distance, so I always had great respect for him. And when I hear somebody that I think is valuable, I take their words. And I'll never forget, when I first moved back here, I was still communicating. I was still commuting from Memphis. And I'll never forget, Deacon, and I'm going to bring you on for a minute. I'll never forget, we had our first senior citizen banquet. And it was in honor of my Aunt Mary, which is 92 years young. And we were all taking pictures, and he whispered in my ears, say, "You're going to bring Battle Creek back, make it great again." And I never forgot that. And I think it's those kind of words that keeps you motivated. See, you got three types of callings in your life. You have a rhema, which is where God speaks to you, or you have a logos, where you read it from the Bible and it pulls alive. Well, then you have someone like Mr. Evans who give you a word, and that word never leaves you. So that's something I'll never forget. But Deacon, how you doing, first of all?
I'm doing pretty good, Bishop.
I'm glad to see you. All is well with you?
Good.
Good. All right, Mr. Evans, tell us briefly about just first of all who you are, your beautiful wife, and then we'll get started on this great interview.
Well, my name is Melvin Evans, and born in Battle Creek. My wife's name is Kate, of course, Kate Evans. She's originally from Kalamazoo. We've been married 61 years. I had 2 boys, and I got right now probably, let's see, 8 grandchildren.
Okay.
My one grandchild, though, the one that I spoiled the most, Enid, she was named after my mother. She lives out in Arizona. She's a lawyer out there. She's doing pretty well. So that's the extent of my life with my kids and stuff.
So the first thing I want to talk about is we want to really get into some history before we deal with the current. There was a time when Battle Creek, from a young man point of view, whether it was legal or illegal, that's not my place to ask. But there was an area down on Hamlin Street. It just seemed like there's a lot of businesses that was taking place and owned by black people. Can you take us back to that time frame? Because my next question is going to be, and what happened to us? How did we lose all of that? And you take us as far as you want to take us.
Well, excuse me. Well, in the 40s, there was a club down there called Thompson's, and that was on the corner. And then they had another tavern. It was called Brownie's Tavern. He was in the middle.
Now, these are all by blacks?
These are all blacks.
Okay.
And so in 1949, my sister and my brother-in-law decided to lease Thompson's place on the corner. At that time, they called it the Black and Tan.
The Black and Tan.
Right. And so they did. They leased that because Mr. Thompson was getting old, and he decided that he didn't want to be in that business no longer. So my sister and my brother-in-law, they leased that place from him then. That was in 1949. Well, on the other side, which was, again, Brownie's Tavern, he closed up. He decided to get out of that business. And I'm not for sure, but I think Mr. Brownie, he might have passed in that time. I don't remember exactly. You have to forgive me. There's a lot of things I won't remember.
That's okay. You're educating me right now.
But anyway, my brother-in-law and sister decided that they would move from the corner next door, which was a larger place. So in the snap, that was my brother-in-law's. His name was Robert Montgomery, but everybody called him Snap. He decided that not only did he want a tavern in there, he wanted a pool hall also. So he had the first pool hall down there. Well then, after a few years, Marcus Gray, who was the county commissioner,
he was the secretary.
Secretary. No.
No, and he was the guy that deals with the license.
Right. I can't think of it right now.
And Norlander is right now.
That's right. But anyway, they got together and they went around the town because at that time, you see, the only thing they had at the bar was beer and wine. So Snap and Marcus, they got together and they decided that they wanted to get liquor in Battle Creek.
Now, is Marcus that old? He won that.
Well, Marcus is probably in his 70s.
Okay, so he's a young fella helping out.
That's right.
Helping out your brother-in-law.
That's right. And not only my brother-in-law, but he helped a lot of people.
Okay. Yeah. Marcus Gray. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So they went to work and they got it passed.
County clerk.
County clerk,
right.
There you
go. Okay, go ahead.
And he was a county clerk for about 20 years, I assume.
Yes.
A long time. But anyway, they got that liquor license. And then that's when the that's when the El Grotto really started blasting or moving out. We had at that time Junior Walker.
Now, before you go there, because that's next, what made your sister, your brother-in-law, Snap, okay, we're talking about the late 30s, early 40s, to have the mindset to even open up? I mean, we have children now that are afraid to do a lemonade stand. What made that in the 40s now? In the 40s, what? We talking post-war? Where are we at in the 40s? Help us out. What's going on in America in the 40s right now?
Well, I don't know exactly. I know what was going on in the 40s in Battle Creek.
Right, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Was it?
Now,
go ahead.
can I be point blank with you?
Please. It's your show.
I'm a man like this here. I believe in telling what I know.
That's what I need to hear.
And I could be able to call them black, black, white, white.
There you go.
When I grew up in Battle Creek, it was very prejudiced.
Okay.
When I went to Central, first I went to Southwestern Junior High School, played football and everything at Southwestern. It was prejudiced also. They put the guys, the white students that they thought was going to be that was going to excel, they put them in different classrooms than they did us. I don't think they realized what they was doing to us mentally.
Boom.
But I went home and I told my mother about that. She says, Melvin, let me tell you something. No matter what they try to do to you, you do what you want to do. There's nothing to stop you. She said, pray and do what you want to do. And that's what I did. Now, when I went to Battle Creek Central, I was a pretty good baseball player. They told me right out, no blacks play baseball here.
No, blacks were colored.
Well, colored. Excuse me.
I want to know what they said. Did they say colored or black?
He said colored.
Colored, okay.
Because back then it was colored.
Thank you.
You know, or a Negro.
Okay, I was going to ask that next too.
And I said, what? He said, no, you don't play baseball here.
This is Battle Creek Central.
Battle Creek Central. That was in 1946.
46.
And I said, well, anyway, baseball, tennis, golf. The only thing they wanted to use us guys, and I say us guys, us blacks for, is because we were strong and could run like the wind. Football, track, and basketball. That's what they want. That's what they did for us.
And we still doing that, sir.
No, we're not.
We're not playing tennis, are we?
It's wide open now for our children.
But we're not playing tennis. And we're not golfing.
And I'll tell you the reason for that, because they're both expensive sports.
Okay.
If you buy a golf ball, a nice golf ball costs you $3 or $4.
Okay.
A good golf ball.
Okay.
And your clubs cost in the thousands.
Yeah, that's true.
And your shoes cost $65, $75, $100 off and up.
Okay.
So you see, that's one of the reasons why what do you want me to say, colored or black?
Is what you want to say?
Our black children, that's the reason why they're not into those kind of sports, because they're so expensive.
Okay. So
I think another good reason too is they're not exposed to that either, and because maybe it's because of the price, but kids aren't exposed at a young age to golf, black kids, golf and tennis, and those other sports. So they're always it's easy to go out and play basketball because you could just pick up a ball and go to a court and play.
Well, you know what though, Doug, I'm not cutting you off, but I don't think that's nationwide. I think that's more or less Battle Creek, because you take down south and southwest and out west, our children are playing golf.
True.
They're playing tennis.
You're right.
The track boys run good track because it's warm all the time.
That's very true.
Because you see here it's cold in
Yes.
April and May.
You can't practice. Right.
So you see that's one reason too. Now you're right though. Yeah. But a while back they formed a golf club here, and they were trying to get the black children or young people involved in golf, and they called that the Greater Battle Creek Golf Club. They had them out for a while, but again, it was expensive. They just couldn't afford it. And there's not too many black people around Battle Creek that chip in money where it's really needed.
Right.
And
So-
they couldn't get that done.
So let's continue on. You're gonna probably get some. If you got a few questions for Mr. Evans, we're gonna monitor so we can ask Mr. Evans right now. But right now, we're gonna utilize this wisdom and enjoy him talking to us. So I want to go back. So back in the 40s, what was it that made your, at that time, colored sister and colored brother-in-law think they can open up a business?
Well, both of them worked at Kellogg's.
Okay.
However, when they worked at Kellogg's at that time, back in those days, the colored people, when they got hired in, the only thing they were doing was custodial work.
Janitorial work.
That's right.
Okay.
Because you see, then that changed. I believe that it changed in the late 40s, like 49, 50, and up in there.
Okay.
So my brother-in-law was a very ambitious man. He always said that he wanted to be his own entrepreneur.
Okay.
He wanted to get into the entrepreneur bit by himself.
Okay.
He didn't want to depend on that man for him.
Okay.
But you still have to depend on him.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's what gave him the idea to get into the tavern business or bar business.
Okay.
And along with that, when him and Helen, my sister, opened up the El Grotto and got started, when they built the other building, and is renovated that other building, why, then him and my brother-in-law, Ray Franklin, who was married to my older sister, Madeline Franklin.
That's the barber, Denny's what? Daddy?
Denny's daddy.
That Denny's daddy, okay.
Right.
All right,
They
gotcha.
decided that they wanted to be in the cab business. So they bought they bought some cars in, and I can't remember the name of those cars right now. It'll come to me.
Okay.
And they was in that business probably for, 7, 8 years maybe.
Here by the creek.
Right there, down there on the corner.
And it was called what? That's okay. So we had a cab company downtown also.
You had a
Down
down
the
on
corner.
Ham
Yeah,
on
Hamlin.
Kendall.
So Mr. Evans, you had two older sisters that was entrepreneurs.
That's right.
So where you fit at? Where you at in that? What you have? You had two sisters
I had 4 sisters and 2 brothers.
and you're the baby?
No, my
Okay.
youngest brother is Ted Evans.
Okay.
He lives in Arizona now.
Okay. But Helen, no disrespect when I say
Madeline
Helen,
was the
Helen.
oldest.
Okay.
Helen was next.
Denny Franklin mother, sister, no, Denny Franklin mother.
Denny Franklin's mother.
Okay, what's next?
That's her. No, she was the oldest, Madeline.
Oh, she's the oldest.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then came Helen.
Okay.
And then my other sister, whose name was Barbara Jean.
Okay.
And then my older brother, Donald.
Okay.
And then I had a sister named, or well, I still do, Jacqueline.
Okay.
She lives in Minnesota. And then me, and then my youngest brother, Ted.
So where did your parents migrate from?
Well, my mother was born in Charlotte, Michigan.
Really?
Really?
That's a white place, right?
Well, that's true, a white town, but they were the only black family in that town for
Okay.
a long time.
Okay.
In fact, my Uncle Charlie, my mother's sister, married a guy named Charlie Burton.
Okay.
He worked at Post. He was, I guess you could say it kind of not a bodyguard, but a valet maybe, or in that respect, or a custodian for Mr. Post.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. He worked directly for him.
Mr. Post. Wow.
Yeah,
And your
CW,
father
CW
was CW,
Post.
the head man, right?
Well, no, he wasn't the head man, but
He wasn't the head man?
who was CW Post?
Yeah,
He
somebody-
was the owner. He's the one that founded the Post cereals.
Right.
Okay, right.
Okay. And then where your father migrate from?
My father was born in a little town called Denton, Michigan.
Okay.
That's over by Detroit.
Okay.
Then he came here, and him and my mother, of course, they married.
So
but
should
my
I-
father was a very unfortunate. He was a painter, and he fell off a ladder, and he got gangrene. And I don't know back in those days were they too much on gangrene and stuff, but it went through his system and killed him. He was only 37.
Wow. I'm a history guy, and I love it. When I talk to you, I'm talking to history. I love it. I love it. And more young people. If I have any wisdom, I got it because I talk to men like you. So I'm trying to find this migration. So, okay, was it your grandparents that came from the South? 'Cause I'm trying to, you still got me in Michigan. Who came from the South? Was it your grandparents?
Well,
You got Charlotte, your mom. You got Denton, your dad. Who came from the South?
well, unfortunately, I'm sorry that you had to ask me that because my grandparents, they died when I was born.
Okay, okay.
So
okay.
they died when I was just a small tot.
Okay, okay, okay.
And so I never did know them,
okay,
unfortunately.
I got you.
And like my father died when I was a young man too, and I can barely remember him.
I see, I see.
So,
okay. Well, that's good to know regarding the history aspect. So now we have these entrepreneurs in the city of Battle Creek. When you drive down Hamlin Street now, it's almost like a ghost town.
that's right.
How do you feel?
I feel really bad about it. But as time goes and time changes, why, my sister, she died, she got burnt. She was in a fire.
Who, Helen?
Helen did. That's how she died. Yeah, what she would used to do, she would get the guys together down at the bar, and they would all chip in. Sometimes they would have pizza, go get pizza, and then most of the time they'd say, Miss Helen, they called her Miss Helen.
Yes.
Miss Helen, how about cooking some barbecue? Well, you guys get the barbecue and buy the charcoal and stuff, and I'll cook. Well, she did that several different times. But this particular time, my wife and I and some other people, we was out of town at a bowling tournament. In fact, I was in New York, Buffalo, New York, bowling. And she got burnt with this fire. Well, what she did, excuse me, what she did, she was cooking the barbecue and poured some gasoline on it, and it blowed up and burned her severely.
Wow.
And she passed away. I think she lived about 2 weeks after that.
And was it years later when?
And then Beverly, her daughter,
I remember your daughter. I remember
her
the
daughter ran the place.
Yes.
She took over.
Yes.
But being a young woman, and she wasn't really knowledgeable about bar business, although she was brought up in it, but she wasn't really that knowledgeable about it. And so she lost it. She just wouldn't listen to my brother and I, who we used to be the bartenders down there. If she had to listen to us, we'd have still had the El Grotto down there probably. But she lost it on back taxes and everything. She wouldn't listen. But I guess I shouldn't even mention
No, I'm gonna let you say that. I'm just listening.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not. You 87. Ain't nobody gonna mess with you. Ain't nobody gonna mess with you. I'm just gonna listen to that, baby. So with that being said, you had. I'm just gonna throw off some names I remember. You had Alvin Flemings.
Right.
You had Hugh Grill.
Hughes Grill, yeah.
Hughes Grill.
Hugh Pettiford, right.
You had Dickerson Barbershop.
He was on the corner in Hamlin.
My grandmother was right
Right, a couple of doors down from him. And you had James Barbershop on the corner. Used to be there.
Yeah, okay. And then
And
go all the way
Alvin.
down, you got Katie's.
Excuse
And
me,
you
yes.
start getting the Angel down there with Katie.
And then Katie come in down there because Mr. Don had that business first.
Mr. Don. My mom worked for Mr. Don, yes.
That's right, because you see where the drive-in is at now, Andy Figures. That's who owns that bar, or that is that drive-through. They got his Figs hamburgers.
Yes.
They're supposed to be famous.
Yes.
And by the way, they are good.
Yeah. The things you just got
had
to
one
shout
before.
out. You just got to shout out.
They are good
I would
burgers.
like to challenge.
They are good.
And he may be watching tomorrow, next week, or this show is always recorded. I would really like to, if Mr. Evans is up to it, I would really like, let me get my name right, our Ward Gray, Mr. Gray. You are over the, I think the African American competition thing they do every February.
Talking about Sam?
Sam, it would be really nice if we could get some questions that actually pertain to Battle Creek. and get a walking almanac here and let him give us some history, because one of the things is maybe we won't destroy our town, and maybe we'll create more value about who we are if we know that we had a whole lot of involvement. We've contributed a whole lot to this city, and we were doing some really positive things. But I'm afraid that a lot of us don't even know the Katie's and the Mr. K's or Mr. Evans or his sister. And maybe that could be something, if it's okay with you, you can implement that. What you think about that, Deacon?
I think it's a good idea. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting here listening to Mr. Evans, I was writing down some things that I remember and some of the businesses that were open, when I was a kid. And but I think it would really help educate our young people if they knew the history of Battle Creek. Right. And it might even inspire some of them too.
Could be. That would be nice. Yeah.
So you mentioned Marcus Gray. So was Marcus Gray before Marion Birch to hold a public office? Who was the first black to hold a public? Now I do know Matty Vest, those individuals, but to hold a state or public office, would that have been Marcus Gray or would that be Marion Birch?
Well, I'm not sure, because Maud Bristol was in there too. And then Mr. Valentine was the first black
You're correct.
to be on the city commission.
You're right. And then you had the Judge Penn too, but that was later, right?
Right.
Okay. But those are
And then
names
you
that
had
a lot of us don't know about.
Right. And they had Don Sherrod, who was our mayor at one time.
Right. But see,
And of course,
those are
Maud
names
Bristol
right
was too.
there. I guarantee you, a lot of young folks wouldn't know. Judge Penn, Don Sherrod, Mayor. Of course, Maud Bristol is still here, active. Marion Birch,
Right.
Marcus Gray. Those are 5 right there that were very, very much involved. And then you had later on Reverend Bullock and Mr. Boers. Was there ever a grocery store besides what Mr. Boers had and besides what they had over there by, what was it, Eleanor? Was there ever one ever bigger than that?
Yeah, it used to be one up on Kendall. Pardon?
Well, not Little Store. Before, I ain't talking about Little Store. That's on Kendall.
IGA was on the corner of Rosalie and Kendall in Brownstone, Jenny Brown.
Yeah, his name,
Is that what you talking about, Butter?
Tom Brown and them owned that store on the corner.
It was a grocery store?
Yeah, it was a grocery store before his dad opened up a pool room there. It was a grocery
So we
store.
used to have a grocery store
Yeah, it was a grocery store there.
where you could buy milk, all that stuff. Water.
Grocery store.
You can buy milk? What about bread? Did you go there?
And pork chops too. But now, then down,
Are you serious? What year was that, y'all?
that was in probably the 60s.
And then Midnight Shots came over and turned
That
the
was
pole?
probably in the 60s and 70s. Now, Floyd Bates owned a store down further,
Oh, boy.
which was next to, who? The Bryans, Bill Bryan and them. There was a
Okay.
little store in there too, but this was a small store.
Yeah, Mr. Buford bought it later.
That's right.
Yeah, I
That's
remember
right.
that.
Yeah.
They called it a little store when I was coming around.
Oh, that's what they called it?
Yeah, little store.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know what it was before a little store. Mr. Buford, which was my principal at Dudley School.
Okay, yeah.
Leon.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Played a lot of golf with him.
Yeah. You know what? But now, Mr. Evans, I do remember I used to bowl a lot, and I also remember you saying that he was a bowler. So I didn't know that until you brought that up.
Well, I was pretty
You're
good.
pretty good. Yeah. You're pretty good. So now, let's get to current 2018. We're going to 2019. The condition of our young people. We love everybody, but let's talk about African American now. And we don't discriminate. We love all people. But right now, we're going to just talk about our community. What do you feel is the results and the cause? It just appears to be we're failing in some areas of loving each other and working together and not able to get along.
Well, one thing
what's
you
your take
got,
on that?
one thing that you got, Bishop, you've got children raising children. And these mothers and fathers, very few fathers, but these mothers, they have to get out and work. They're not home enough to spend time with their children to teach them what's right and wrong. And I blame our school system also. How come we don't have history in our schools, black history? To let them know, pardon?
He said, there you go, he agreed with
To
you.
let them know that what's going on in Battle Creek and what happened in Battle Creek, where our blacks used to, only thing they could get back in the old days, the men especially, only thing they could get was bartenders and being, what do you call them, bellhops. You know, that's the only thing they could get back in those days. Buddy Sherrod and all those people like that, and my brother-in-laws, they all started out down there at the Post Tavern. That's what they used to do, wait bar. And at the hotel, used to be a big hotel right there on the corner now where the Kellogg building is. Used to be a bank, a tavern, or there's a hotel there called the Post Tavern.
Really?
That's right.
Now that's before the Hart Hotel. I know
Well, the
about
Hart Hotel, that's different. That's up
By
this
Federal
way.
Center. Okay, got
That's
you.
up there.
Okay.
Hart Hotel's been there a long time too
Okay,
now.
I got
Bishop.
you. Okay,
Been there a
okay.
long time.
Okay.
And then that's what they did. The only thing they could get back in those days was bellhops, waiting tables. That's all they could do back in them days. Some of them were chauffeurs around town. Well, then in 49, the interesting thing that happened in 1949, the Brooklyn Dodgers, I believe it was, Brooklyn Dodgers came here to play baseball. We used to have a lot of baseball here.
Okay.
We had a lot of baseball here. Blacks used to come in here, Kansas City Monarchs and all that bunch used to come here and play every year. But anyway,
So you're talking about the Negro League.
that's right.
Okay,
They used
the
to come
Negro
here.
League. Wow,
Okay.
okay.
One year, they came in here and they wanted to tour a cereal plant. So they took them through Post cereals. Well, I don't remember exactly this because they told me, but it seemed to me like it was Jackie Robinson. But it might have been Don Newcomb or but anyway, or Roy Campanella, one of those guys. They asked the tour guide, how come we don't have no blacks working here? We haven't seen nobody in the plant. They take you through the plant back then, you know, and after you got done, they'd give you ice cream. Okay, Kellogg's used to do the same thing.
Okay.
And so they couldn't answer him. So that was in 1949. Well, then they opened the place up, and Bill Benson, you should probably know the Benson. They used to live there on Kendall, next to Sam's Barbershop, in that house there. He was the first black to get hired in 1949.
At Kellogg's?
No, at Post.
At Post.
Although
1949.
Although my uncle, he worked there, but he wasn't in the plant.
He was a janitor.
There you go.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Gotcha.
So then, 1949, that's when they opened up the Post cereals to blacks. There was Benson was the first one. Then there was Charlie Burton, Lonzo Grant, Paul Wells, me, Ron Chase, Neil Chase rather, and then there's now, well, at one time we probably had a couple of 300 blacks there at one time.
So you got hired at Post in what year?
50.
1950. And you retired from Post?
Yes, sir.
What year you retired?
19. 1996.
What?
Yes. I've been gone quite a while.
Well, you worked there for a long time.
36.
36 years.
Yeah, the good Lord's been good to
So
me.
you ever see a man named Hugh Smith go through Post?
I used to be, I don't mean to say it because, but I was his supervisor for probably 5 or 6 years. But I'm gonna tell you, you can laugh.
I got a question.
You can laugh. Now wait a minute, Bishop. You can laugh if you wanna, but he was the best machine man that I have ever seen.
I heard that. I just got a question for y'all. Why would y'all let them go across the street? Not just him, everybody.
Well, it
You
was.
you the supervisor?
Yeah, I was supervisor, but it was. I guess it was just something that was created before I even got to be
Okay.
a supervisor.
I got
and so
you.
I couldn't stop it. You know, one monkey don't stop no
I
show.
know that's right.
That's something that's hard to control when somebody leaves for lunch. You don't know where they're going. So.
Well, you can't
Well-
do it your day now, but they had a system
Yeah,
back
they-
then.
No, they did it. I was a supervisor at Post too.
But the
and
system
they used
was
to go
different.
across the street.
Yeah.
They used to go
the
across the street.
system was different there. dude.
But
Yeah,
here,
it was a
but
little
your
different.
father, when he was in my building, which was 32 building, where they made Tang.
Yeah.
You know
he
the
used to bring
drink
Tang
Tang.
home every day.
All right. Okay.
Good Tang. They still make Tang?
Yeah, but they don't make it here. They make it down in, I think it's Evansville.
Really? Do they even sell Tang? DJ?
Yeah, it's still,
Yeah,
it's on the,
they still sell
it's
it,
still
yeah.
on the shelves,
I
right?
have to go
They
buy me
got it
some
right.
Tang.
They got it down out the Myers right
I think
now.
it's seasonal,
Didn't
isn't
know
it?
that.
But
Didn't know
anyway,
that. Go ahead.
when
You think
when
about
Hugh
Tang.
when
ahead.
Hugh would get cut out of 32 building, they would ship him to another building. On Monday morning, when I was getting ready to make out my schedule, my boss would always say, "Mel," I say, "Yeah, Dick." That was my boss name, Dick Clark. "Is Hugh here?" And I say, "No." "Where is he?" And I said, "Well, I think he went to 29 building. He got cut in 29 building." "Well, you call up and tell him you want him back down here, because he's got to run that Johnson line."
My man.
That's right. Yeah, your dad could run. He could get that thing going, and they would go chugga 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 chugga, and then he'd go across the street. I hated that
My
too.
man.
I did.
That's my father. They talking about my man.
Yeah,
He was
but he was a good worker though. I mean, he liked to go across the street.
So, Bellman Waiters and those clubs had nothing to do with Post, right? It was just an individual who owned
Oh
that.
no, right.
Now, what about Snyder? Didn't Snyder used to have something to do with that?
Tom
ownership?
Schneider.
Yeah.
He bought when the owner.
See, brother, you didn't
Name-
know that history, did you, brother?
His name was Cliff Marshall.
Cliff Marshall.
He
okay.
was the original owner of Bellman's and Waiters.
Okay.
It was a private club when he first opened it up.
Okay.
You had to be a member
Okay.
in order to get in there. But then later on, he opened it up to the public. Well, then Tom Snyder, he worked for that club up on the bank building there, which was a private club.
Okay.
He worked in there as a bartender. Atchison Club? Whatever.
Okay. Okay.
Well, then he bought Mr. Marshall out
Okay.
because Cliff got sick
Okay.
and he could no longer, run the business. And that's when Tom Snyder took over. I don't remember the exact year though.
Okay. So now, as you know, Mr. Evans, I remember my grandmother used to take me to the bank right around here and go up that pretty escalator.
Right.
Now all this has been turned into condominiums.
Right.
What you think about all that? What's your thought about all of this? You've been here.
Well, I don't think it's not right. Our downtown is the
Talk to
downtown.
us. Talk to
the
us, sir.
downtown is not a place where you have condominiums. You should have stores down there like we used to have.
Talk to him.
I've said that many a times. When I first got married in 1957, before I got married, Kate and I, we'd come down here and go to the Regent Theater, which is right in here somewhere. And then the Michigan was across the street. The Post Theater was down here, and the Rex and the Orpheum and all that. We had a lot of theaters. But Kate and I would walk down through town and window shop. Because they had ladies' stores, they had men's stores, they had shoe stores, they had jewelries, they had drugstores, you name it. It was a downtown. But you don't have no downtown now. The only thing you got down here is fast food. And ain't nothing, you know what? On Sunday, if you get out there and throw a rock down through there, you ain't gonna hit nobody because nobody's down here. Everything is closed.
Any questions for Mr. Evans? Let us know on Facebook Live. We got DJ monitoring in. We're just happy to have Mr. Evans. We're talking about a man that's 87 years young. He's been around, y'all. He turned some corners. He didn't get that nice looking gray for nothing. He's not died. Is that gray? You died that gray? Or
No,
is that-
sir.
I didn't think so.
Oh, God.
That's my man. That's my man right there. And he is here on the show, and we're just flattered. I'm hoping that you that's watching us, part of our legacy is to recognize people that just deserve. And the mayor of the city of Battle Creek, I hope you're hearing and listening to someone that is part of our patriarch. And he's right in our community, and he's just a great man to even know and even get to be near. So let me ask you right now, you are a deacon at the church I was raised in. Is that true? Or you a choir director or something? Trustee, count all the money. Assistant pastor.
Well, I am on
What
the
are
trustee
you? What
board.
are you, sir? Tell me.
I'm on the trustee board.
Okay, okay.
We got a nice men's choir.
Okay.
And I try to sing in that.
Okay.
I don't sing very well.
Okay.
But at least I'm there.
And you name your church.
Mount Zion AME.
New pastor, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The name is Holtz.
Okay. Okay. So
yes.
I really don't remember, Mr. Evans. I was probably playing around, but were you going there when my grandmother was there?
Yes, ma'am, sir.
So I don't
I've
remember
been
you.
going to that church ever since my mother made me go when I was a tot.
Really?
I grew up in that church.
Okay, so you remember us when we were there then?
Oh yes.
I was an altar boy with Reverend Perry.
Yep.
Yeah, when Reverend Perry was the pastor, I was an altar boy. I sat right in front when they had little open doors of the church. Yeah, he and one of the Cromwells. I can't think of who it was. But anyway, so where you see yourself going? You're 87. You look like you're not stopping. You know what? One of those. There's a movie called The Bucket List. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No.
Was it Jack Nicholson?
I think it was Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Who else was in that movie?
And they were older fellas, and they wanted to do a few things before
they died.
The good Lord called them
I
home.
guess I did. Yes, I did see that movie.
You got it. Now, one of the movies robbed the bank. I don't know if you saw that one. There's another one.
No.
They went and robbed the bank. But what would be
Jack Nicholson was rich, and
yeah.
so that's why he took and sponsored everything.
So what would be a bucket list if you had one?
Well, I don't have one.
Okay.
My bucket list is gone. I did everything that I wanted to do with my family.
Wow.
I raised 2 boys. My oldest boy was murdered. Larry.
Okay.
4 men broke in his house and killed him. But he was a heck of a track man. He was one of the best hurdlers, and I'm not. When I talk about him being a hurdler, I just get so filled up with happiness about it.
I can
Because
see
you
it.
know what, Doug? That boy could run them hurdles just like he did. It was a picture to watch.
I can see it. I can see
was
the
beauty.
expression right there.
But anyway,
Wow.
I raised my boys. I helped raise my granddaughters. In fact, the one that I spoiled the most out in
She came in your party.
That's right.
Right. She was at your party.
That's right.
Right.
From Arizona. Why I helped put her through school at Michigan State. Yeah, I took it. Well, anyway, but my bucket list. The thing that I always wanted. I told Kate when I met her. I took her out of Kalamazoo. And when I used to go to Kalamazoo, the guys would, back in them days, they would try to muscle me around, But
Really?
Oh yeah, they
You
didn't
seem like the guy that muscled them around. But go ahead.
Well, they did. It
Okay.
didn't work.
Okay, didn't work. Okay.
But anyway, they didn't like the idea of me coming over there to see.
Taking one of their girls.
That's a fact.
That's right.
But anyway, I told Kate, I says, you know what I want? And she says, what? I said, I love you, and I always love you, and I want to marry you. So she says, well, I had to think about that, Mel. She said, because, you're a little bit wild yet.
You was wild a little bit.
Well, just a
Little
wee
wild.
bit.
A little
Just a wee bit.
My man.
And so I said, well, I'm going to ask your mother.
Okay, you play games. That's good.
I did. And I went and
That's
bought a
strong.
ring, and
That's a
I
strong
asked her
move.
mother. And she was a little hesitant, too. She didn't want me to marry her either. But anyway, she said, well, it's up to Kate. So we got married. And I promised her, I said, you know what, Kate? I said, I'm going to buy you a house. I'm going to buy you anything that you want. I said, but the house I want one with a nice green grass around it and a white picket fence. Well, I didn't get it. But I got a nice home. I had
Right.
nice lawn and everything. So she asked me that hadn't been too awful long ago. She says, you know what, Melvin, you know what you promised me? I said, no. I said, that's been an awful long time ago. You promised me this house with a white picket fence around it, pretty lawn. I said, well, you got the lawn. And
He says, but where's this white picket fence? And I said, well, that was back in them days. I was just trying to get you, baby. But that was my bucket. And raising my kids.
Okay.
Because, you know, my family, my mother always taught us, she says, I want y'all to be very close-knit. She said, I don't ever want to hear about you fighting one another, fist fighting. She said, now arguing, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
She said, because that solves a lot of problems. She said, but fisticuffs, I don't ever want to hear about it. I never, ever fought my brothers or my sisters, and they never fought one another.
Wow. Mr. Evans, 87 years old. How many years your son been gone?
Oh, God. 5 years, going on 6.
Every day you think about it.
Every minute of the day. He was good to me. He loved me.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, you know what, Bishop? I'm sorry you brought that up because you got my heart full.
I know. And I see the smile. I see the smile and the joy you have when you think about it.
Well, Melvin knew him.
Yeah.
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 They called him Schoolboy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But boy, could he run them hurdles.
Run them hurdles.
Oh, man.
So, for those who've been around, I always ask them questions. I'm going to mention a few names, Mr. Evans. I want you to give me your thought in your own 1 or 2 word sentence. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
When he died, I was just a kid. And we were out playing football on Lafayette. We lived on Lafayette Street. Well, let me go back, because my sister Helen, she took me in. I don't know why she wanted me to live with her, but she always wanted me to live with her because she had a kid, Harry and Beverly. I called Beverly Dubby because she was a white lattice girl. But anyway, Helen called Melvin, come here. And she called my other brother, Teddy. He was living with Madeline. She called us over. And she said, President Roosevelt just died. Now, that was in 1940, was it?
Yep, somewhere between 45. Yep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was in there.
Yep, yep.
Right. But the only thing I didn't know too much about that because I was quite young back then, but I do know this much so. He's the one that had what they called back in those days a relief program. What the relief would do, Bishop, every week they would bring a box of groceries to our houses. In that box they had a big jar of peanut butter and jelly and the block cheese. That's good cheese too. And then they'd have rice, and then they'd have beans. I can't remember all was in it. And that happened every week.
John F. Kennedy.
Oh man. I admired that man because I thought he was our first black president. He seemed to me like, I don't know what happened or what went on in the White House. Of course, I wouldn't know. I'm not in there. But he seemed to me like he wanted to turn the country around to where people were able to do what they wanted to do without being chastised or anything because of the color of his skin.
Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
Oh, God, the greatest man. Oh, I was so sad that they killed him. Now, there's a man that didn't have he was great, but the only thing wrong, Bishop, Doug, blacks didn't get behind him like they should have got behind him. Now, even though they was participating with him in the marches and the sit-ins and everything, they still didn't get behind him to do the things that he really wanted to do. And I think that if that would have happened, even right today, if blacks would get together more There's no telling what we could do.
Barack Hussein Obama.
Oh, mercy. He was, now there was a good man. The only thing that man had was a problem was they was against him from the day he got in the White House. that O'Connell right now.
I ain't said his name yet. That's next.
You know him.
I'm
You
gonna
heard,
say in a minute.
because he ain't no good. He's
Donald Trump.
He's a president. Donald Trump is another one.
Oh, you got
But
someone
anyway.
else. Well, who was you talking about?
I was talking about O'Connell.
Oh, O'Connell, gotcha.
He's
okay.
a senator.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
He
Okay.
said that
Okay.
whatever he was going to try to do,
Right,
talking about Obama,
right,
that
right.
he'll never get anything done.
Absolutely. Donald Trump.
Well, I think that since that man has been in there, we've got more problems now than we've had in a long, long time. You've got the white races, Ku Klux Klan. You've got these people come to Nazis that are coming out openly. And the, excuse me, the police are killing blacks. And then he don't care nothing about it.
Last name, Melvin Evans.
Well, I can't say too much about myself. I just let my personality speak for itself.
You know,
I try to be liked by everybody. I try to treat everybody the way I want to be treated, and that's the way I live.
this is one of the personal favorite shows because there's no guarantee you'll be here 10 more years. But your words your words of wisdom are here to last forever. And that means the world to me. Mr. Evans, you're one of my mentors, you're one of my counselors, and your son is gone, the herder, and you see the thing we're trying to do. What advice you would give me? Knowing this city, what advice would you
Well,
give
I'll
me?
tell you what I'll give you. Keep doing what you're doing. You've got a lot of young people that all I hear throughout Battle Creek is Bishop Tino Smith. You've got a lot of following. However, I just wish that the more of us grown people and the Minister Alliance, if they have a Minister Alliance, the ministers would get together and do something. And hey, all the ideals that you got is just beautiful if you would get these people in behind you. If you do that, in which I know the good Lord is going to help you do it. I got all the confidence in the world in the good Lord. I pray to him every day and every night. You are going to succeed in doing what your dream is. And your dream, to me, is really beautiful. You want to have stores for the black people. You want to have black people together. It's just, you'll do it.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, I'm looking at your hands, man. Your stuff is all manicured up. Your hands look good. What you doing here?
My wife, she wants me to, she says, you're getting old, Bill, when your skin's getting wrinkled. She said, at least you can take and put some clear polish on your
Who
nails.
does that for you? You do it or someone else does it? That looks good.
Kate Francis Evans.
That's your wife.
Yes. Yeah, that's my wife. She takes good care of me.
Wow, this is amazing. DJ, you want to ask the Honorable Mr. Evans anything?
No, I'm actually.
You got a chance to have all this knowledge and wisdom. Bible talks about it, so you got a chance to glean off him now.
Well, I actually admire Mr. Evans. You know, his locker is right next to mine at the Y Center. And at 87 years old, I don't know if I could do what you do at 87 years old when I'm 87. So that's admirable that you can go to the Y. You went there 4 days this past week,
Right.
Monday through Thursday.
I try to go about 4 days a week.
Yeah. So
I swim lots. See.
yeah, so that's an example of excellence right there.
Oh, yeah, right.
Swim. That's a good exercise too.
So what is wrong with having a bucket list? What is wrong with getting something new? I mean,
There's nothing wrong with getting something new. And you
good.
know what? I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to do anything to help people and help you.
Thank you, sir.
My doors is always open.
Thank you,
My
sir.
phone number's in the book. You call me anytime, and I'll come running.
Well, y'all, our time is up. They're giving us the 5-minute cue. Mr. Evans, you have about 2 minutes to just say whatever you want to say in the camera. Whatever you feel like saying is yours.
Well, Bishop, Doug, I just wish that the good Lord would give the bishop, give him all the things that he's dreaming of. And I'm sure that he's going to do that. I only hope this too, that I'm around to be able to see that, because I think it's going to happen. And if I won't say hit the number, but but if the lotto is just good to me, I'm gonna give you everything you ever thought you wanted.
Whoa, well, thank you, sir. Hey, you know what, y'all? What can you say? What can you say? This is one of those moments that tell you why life is worth living for. Where you get to sit down and just listen. Just listen. Just listen. Just listen. Somebody that's been through it, somebody that understand what it meant, where you cannot drink at this fountain, or understood, somebody that was told because of the color of your skin, you can't play on my team, the obstacles and the challenges, and then lose a son. And now 87 years later, sitting here looking beautiful, looking handsome, looking wonderful. That's all this is all about. Nothing else to say. I honor my ancestors, my great, great, wonderful father, who was a great worker, Hugh Daniel Smith Sr., and his father, Edward West Smith, and my grandmother, Gussie Smith. And on my mom's side of the family, my mom is still here, love her dearly all the time. But my grandfather, Paddle Perry, Lil Del Perry Sr., and Ruby Elizabeth Perry. Hey, y'all, do what you got to do. Keep connection. Let's learn and listen to what we heard from our choir director, our deacon, our trustee, our great role model, Mr. Evans. We're going to end with a word of prayer together. Father, we thank you for Mr. Evans. We thank you for his wife, Sister Kate. We thank you for the lifelong years you've given us to be with him. We thank you for the privilege to be able to share in his 87th birthday. When he walked in, we saw the smile on his face. And we thank you for this broadcast. This is one of those historical moments where we hear a live voice of knowledge and wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I wish I could have gotten more in depth.
They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hell. They don't have so very long before that judgment day. Won't you make them happy before they pass away?
AccessVision. Your voice, your community.